As events continue to unfold in the Ukraine, it's becoming more apparent day by day that the current crop of Democrats in the West Wing have learned everything they know about war from Hollywood, the movies, video games, and Star Trek. I've made the allegation in other videos that they see Joe Biden as some Captain Picard-like character and Kamala Harris as this new character in the brand new version of Star Trek. They have this myopic, naive, sanitized view of how the military works and how conflicts like this resolve themselves. They are not students of history. That or they're either just reading the parts they want to and skipping over the parts that aren't quite so cut and dried. But also in today's video, I would like to share for you how history is repeating in a way that is almost frightening. 100 years ago, today, a man made a speech, our president at the time, Warren Harding, that could be spoken of today. There's even a U.S. general falling in this trap, mistaking, and this is really the key in today's video, liberty and freedom for normalcy and predictability. They don't always go hand in hand. Warren Harding, the 29th president of the United States, coming out of World War I, gave a speech called The Return to Normalcy. I just want to read a small excerpt from this and tell me if you don't think this could be something said today. My countrymen, there isn't anything the matter with world civilization except that humanity is viewing it through a vision impaired in a cataclysmal war. Poise has been disturbed, and nerves have been racked, and fever has rendered men irrational. Sometimes there have been draughts upon the dangerous cup of barbarity, and men have wandered far from safe paths. But the human procession still marches in the right direction. America's present need is not heroics, but healing. Not nostrums, but normalcy. Not revolution, but restoration. Not agitation, but adjustment. Not surgery, but serenity. Not the dramatic, but the dispassionate. Not experiment, but equipoise. Not submergence in internationality, but sustainment in triumphant nationality. It is one thing to battle successfully against world domination by military autocracy, because the infinite God never intended such a program. But it is quite another thing to revise human nature and suspend the fundamental laws of life and all of life's acquirements. This republic has its ample task. If we put an end to false economics, which lure humanity to utter chaos, ours will be the commanding example of world leadership today. If we can prove a representative popular government under which a citizenship seeks what it may do for the government rather than what the government may do for individuals, we shall do more to make democracy safe for the world than all armed conflict ever recorded. Now that last part, I'm sure that would strike a lot of people as very reminiscent of what Kennedy said. Many people didn't realize Kennedy took that from Harding. He just rephrased it. A citizenship seeking what it may do for the government, rather than what the government may do for individuals. See, Harding was a Republican. But this idea of a return to normalcy, this is something the Germans did very well in France in World War II. When they rolled in and they blew across the Maginot Line with Blitzkrieg and they got to Paris, they restored life to as normal as it could possibly be. And that's what caused the people to step back. They actually, the vast majority of the French, did not like the Maquis. Those who were trying to oust the Germans, trying to fight against the Germans, because it took away their sense of normalcy. See, life did return to normal in France under German occupation, under Nazi rule. And there is a U.S. general, decorated U.S. general, making this mistake. His name is Mark Hertling. And he put together this 16 page thread about why he thinks Ukraine is going to win. And he describes the Ukrainian people as freedom-loving. There are very few freedom-loving people left on the planet. However, there are a great many normalcy-loving people on the planet. And is that not the question we have been asking since 2020 rolled around? When are things going to get back to normal? When can we have normal again? When can we predict what's going to happen? Now, I'm sure a lot of you are still scratching your heads about the whole Star Trek thing. They actually had an episode in Star Trek Voyager where the ship that they were on, Voyager, got occupied by Nazi-like forces. And what did they do? They restored things basically to normal. And this particular character, the actress Jeri Ryan, played Seven of Nine, was singing World War II songs. I think the song was It Can't Be Wrong. And they conducted little war games and war events, but largely they restored things to normal. And that was the biggest trap. And there's a lot of folks here in this country, by the way, and I know in my audience, that are chomping at the bit, so to speak, to go be Maquis, to go be freedom fighters, and be the ones seen as resisting against. They watch this whole Red Dawn invasion type of thing. They don't realize how disliked the Maquis were, not just by the Germans, but by the French that were collaborating and colluding because they just wanted things to get back to mostly normal. And the Maquis interfered with that. And some people are all sorts of excited. Oh, yeah, I'm going to pick up this weapon and that ballistic weapon. I'm going to go do this, that, and the other. But the real story of the Maquis, oh, I would never do that. Oh, that'd be a bridge too far. I would never demean my... Yeah. Welcome to war. Welcome to war. And don't be surprised if that's not the case in the Ukraine. See, Putin's not dumb. He knows he can't leave it in a state of upset for too long. He's got to get in, get control of things, and then return life basically to normal. And that's going to be something to watch. Now, how that affects us psychologically. 4 major behavioral biases are going to apply here. Let me zoom this in a little bit. Normalcy bias. The refusal to plan for or react to a disaster which has never happened before. Holding on to the idea of normal no matter what. Omission bias. The tendency to judge harmful actions as worse or less moral than equally harmful omissions or inactions. Meaning doing nothing and allowing it is just as bad as fighting and perhaps causing harm in the act of fighting. Outcome bias. The tendency to judge a decision by its eventual outcome instead of based on the quality of the decision at the time it was made. See, there are going to be people out there, and this is going to be critical, who say whatever results in a normal outcome is the decision we should make. Whatever gets us on the path quickly back to normal is the right decision. Because normal means there aren't bullets flying around. Normal means there aren't tanks rolling through the streets. It doesn't mean if we have to give up our hopes of NATO, if we just have to let Putin be in charge of Kiev and hand the country back over. If that's the quickest way back to normal, that's what we have to do. And then, of course, planning fallacy. The tendency to underestimate task completion times. And this is going to be the case with Washington, D.C. They have no idea now how long it's going to take. We're going to dive into this a lot deeper over at the Patreon channel. $1 per month, even less than that if you sign up for a year. 3 pennies per day, fully refundable if you sign up. You look at the training, you watch it for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2. You come back to me over there. You can inbox me over there, unlike at YouTube. You can say, Florida Maquis, it's a little too disturbing for me. I really like my normal. And I don't. I want to keep my head in the sand. Can I have my $1 back or my $2 back? Sure. Absolutely. There is a limit, though. There's a 90-day limit on refunds. It has to be the first 90 days. Not my rule, Patreon's rule. So would love to have you there. But I have another question that some aren't seeing. The United States has 19 aircraft carriers, 11 for standard aircraft and 9 for helicopters. How many years have we heard about the reason we need to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on these aircraft carriers is to protect freedom worldwide? Any place freedom is in jeopardy, we're going to send that aircraft carrier. That's why you have to pay all these outrageous taxes, so that we can maintain 11 aircraft carriers, 9 helicopter carriers, to send into harm's way to push back and hold the line for freedom. Are there any aircraft carriers steaming toward the Black Sea at the moment? No. Some say, well, Ukraine's not our business. Wherever would it be our business, would be my question. Wherever then would it be? What would be the proper use of an aircraft carrier if this wasn't it? Now, I'm not making the allegation that we should or shouldn't go in. Don't confuse what I'm saying here. I'm saying this was their argument. This was their argument that we needed to have all of these aircraft carriers and spend all these hundreds of billions of dollars over the last, 40, 50 years? Trillions, probably, actually, to maintain and train and deploy these aircraft carriers. And now Russia is moving into Ukraine, and not a single carrier deployed in support. Not one, not that I know of, not that I've seen. And make no mistake, this is going to come down to Turkey, because the Russians want free, open, and unfettered access to the Mediterranean. They got 14 warships, actually more than that. I think it's over 20 now, warships in the Black Sea. And Istanbul, Constantinople, controls that. And I know a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, McKee, Turkey is NATO. Yeah, barely. Things have been going south with Turkey for a long time with NATO. And if you go and you read the history of what's happened over the last, 15 to 20 years for sure, most Turks do not like the U.S., and they see the U.S. as more of a threat to their national security than Russia or China. The return to normalcy. Warren G. Harding. This is going to be what you have to watch out for. This is what you have to look for. This idea that getting back to normal, forget freedom, forget liberty, not returning to freedom or liberty. If that's the longer path, the harder path, that might cause more harm to more people, no, you can't do that. Nope, that could cause more harm. Back to normal. This is where this U.S. general makes this mistake, and I just want to go over this again. The guy's name is Mark Hertling. He makes this mistake. It's a critical error. He thinks that the Ukrainian people will love freedom and liberty more than they'll love normality and predictability. Even if he's right about that, the markets won't bear it. He's wrong about that. So market pressures, world pressures. Putin is not stupid. He's going to make this quick, and he's going to try to get back to normal, a new normal. How many people have heard this now? The new normal, very soon. Because the longer it stretches out, the worse it is for perceptions. And the guy's former KGB, he's been in intelligence services for a long time. He knows how this game is played. And he knows that the people over here in Washington, D.C., have this A or B mentality. You're either the really, really, really good guys or you're the really, really, really bad guys. They're still living in this Star Trek world where things aren't messy. War is messy. I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. Once again, would love to have you over at the Patreon channel. We're going to do a much deeper dive into this with the training, all of these different biases, these decision-making biases. They're going to affect everyone. But pray for each other, lift each other up. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.